What's good, beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. If you all are new here, my name is Bruno and I'm a photographer, cinematographer based out here in Atlanta. In today's video, we're talking all about editing techniques, specifically how to retouch a photograph and take an image that looks like this and make it look like this. So let's run that intro. So when it comes to editing photos as a photographer, knowing how to retouch skin is a technique that can either make or break a photo. Now, before we actually jump into this tutorial, please know that I am 100% not a professional retoucher. However, I have learned over the years a few different techniques that have helped improve my workflow and also enhance my style of photography. So if you guys are a fan of my photos, whether they be through my Instagram, my website, or Twitter, then hopefully this video will offer you all a chance and opportunity to see my workflow and then pick up a few tips and tricks and apply them as needed. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into Photoshop and break down how we retouch a photo. All right, so here we are in Photoshop with our first image, and first thing that I do before actually working on a photo is always duplicate the image. So this here is going to be our first layer, and we're just going to rename this to spot healing. So if you guys haven't seen my video about what spot healing is and how effective it can be, I'll leave a post here above so you guys can watch that tutorial. So on this layer here, we're just real briefly and quickly touching up any major blemishes that we're trying to take off the photo, and this is meant to be, you know, pretty quick, so don't have to worry about being perfect, but you just want to clean up the skin as much as possible. So for this image in particular, I'm just going to take away any blemishes in the skin that we don't want in our final edit photo. And you can also use your brackets on your keyboard to make your brush tool bigger or smaller. So also when it comes to retouching skin, some client may want, you know, physical characteristics to stay on the photo. So whether it be a mole or a scar or something of that sort, maybe not a scar, but maybe a mole, then you know, you can leave that depending on the client's wishes. So, but for this photo, we're taking everything out. And we just so now this is the clone stamp. To just try to clean up the eye here, we're gonna clone stamp here to just clean everything up real quickly. So there you have it, just a quick spot healing. This is the before and after. Zoom in a little bit, before and after. We can already see how clean the photo looks now. So from here, this is actually the retouching section. So again, we're gonna duplicate our layer. We're just gonna do Control J twice if you're on PC, and then Command J if you're on Mac. So our third or second duplicate layer here, we're gonna name this color, and then our top layer, we're going to name this texture. So here is the technique. So what you want to do is come to our color layer, and we're going to come up here to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we're going to use our pixel selector and select an image. I like to just select, you know, anywhere here, either on the nose, under the cheek, anywhere you can see the most detail in the image, and we kind of use our preview panel here And what you want to do is blur out the pixels until you can barely see or make out what the image is. So for here, personally, I wouldn't copy these or this pixel blur in particular for what I do, because it all depends on the camera that you're using and how sharp that photo is. But then also, you know, it's a lot of edited characteristics or variables that can affect this. So I've, you know, brought this radius up to as high as like 7 and 8, and I've also been as low as like 3 and 4. So for this photo in particular, maybe around like 6. And here in our preview panel, we can see that, you know, everything is just blurred out. So select OK. And then our next step is to come to our texture layer, and we're going to come up to where it says image. We're going to do apply image. And this part here, you can copy this verbatim step by step. So here in our panel, we have a number of options. So what we want to do is come down to where it says blending, and right now it says multiply. We're actually going to come down to and select subtract. Now what subtract does is actually going to take away all the information from a particular panel or layer that we select. So right here where it says layer, we have merged, but we're actually going to select our color layer. And now you can see that we have a little information here on this layer with taking out all the detail and texture from our image and separating, you know, our color and our texture. So that's the reason for frequency separation. You're just separating the colors and the actual texture of an image. So once you have that, you want to make sure your scale is set to 2 and your offset set to 180. This should be a default, but for the instance that it's not, there you go. And then we're going to select OK. And then now that you can see our image is actually grayed out. So in order to change this, we're actually going to come to our blending mode, and we're going to scroll down to linear light. Now, once you do this, it's going to make it seem like there's been 0 changes. But if we turn off the layers below, you can see that our texture layer is still what we just saw before, with that layer being specifically a layer for all the texture in the image. We turn that layer off and look at our color layer. We see that we have all the colors within our image, but no texture. So we turn those two back on, we can resume editing. So for me, what I like to do, I like to start on the color layer and go ahead and start smoothing out the skin or the color within the actual skin. So making everything seem a nice smooth transition between the highlighted area of the skin to the shadow area of the skin. So what you want to do to get this effect is come over to our lasso tool, select that, and then we're going to just start mapping out or selecting areas of the skin that we want to make one cohesive look. So once we have this here selected, we're going to come over to filter, blur, Gaussian blur again. Now this step is similar to our previous step that we did, but for this I'm going to show you guys just how powerful this technique is. So if we take our radius and we push it all the way to the right, we can get a preview of what it does to the skin. So we don't want to go this far. This is way too extreme. And of course, if we don't go anywhere, you can also see that other extreme. We're not really making any effect. So what you want to do is come somewhere in between to where the skin now looks an even skin tone, and there's a nice smooth gradient from our highlight to our shadow. So I think like somewhere right in here, like 9 maybe. Just make it an even 9 for the sake of this tutorial, and we'll click OK. So we can deselect. Now the forehead looks a nice smooth transition from our highlighted area to our dark area. And we're going to repeat this step for our cheeks, our nose, and then our lips and chin. So again, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll speed it up just a little. Okay, so now that I am done with the actual color editing layer and making our skin transition in a nice smooth gradient from highlight to dark, the second thing that we're going to do is actually come back to our texture layer and actually clean up some of the texture within the skin, in particular like taking away some of these bags on the eyes here on the left and then here on the right, and then also here around the lips, taking away some of those skin creases in the skin, and then also cleaning up some of the pores and pimples within the subject's cheeks. So in order to do this, the most simple and easiest way is doing this with the clone stamp. Unfortunately, when we've actually added in this frequency separation technique, we no longer can do the spot healing. If you do a spot healing, you kind of see what happens. So I'm going to use our clone step tool, and then for this you want to make sure your blend mode is on normal, your opacity is set to 40, and your flow is set to 100. Now you can change these just depending on your workflow and how tedious or not tedious you want this editing technique to be, but for me it's just kind of, you know, a smooth spot for me. So first thing we're going to do is just take away the bags on the eye, and we're just going to select a spot underneath that we want to apply the texture to, and we're just going to slowly just tab away and take away those creases and bags under the eye. Now for this technique here, you want to be as subtle as possible. You don't want to go too heavy with this technique because it can take away, again, some of the natural look of our subject. So especially since we are zoomed all the way in, you never know when we're actually overkilling. So make the edit, zoom back out, and as we can see, that eye looks, again, natural as possible. So again, here on the right side, just gonna clean up that area under the cheek, and then again, as you can see, I'm continuously tabbing and selecting new areas as I clean up under this eye. And then once I'm to an area where I think, oh yeah, that looks good, let's see, as you can see right there, went a little too far. We're gonna do that. There we go. We're gonna zoom out. Check it out. No more bags under the eye. So we're gonna repeat this step for any other blemishes on the skin, like here on the cheek. Just gonna take these creases away. Now that I've done that, the image here looks good. Like this is actually where I'm gonna stop at, or you could stop at, but an advanced step from here is actually coming up here to our adjustments and selecting black and white right here. So black and white will make the image, of course, black and white, but if we take our res channel and slide it all the way to the left and zoom in on our subject, we can begin to see some more blemishes that we may want to take out, whether that just be, you know, little pimples, or, you know, too much texture or uneven texture, and we want to make all of our image look as cohesive as possible. So again, that was just an added extra step. We took off our black and white, and then boom, there you go. All right, so there you have it. That is photo retouching for beginners. If this video was helpful for you in any type of way, please make sure to hit that like button so that this video is able to reach a larger audience and help others become better photographers and editors. And if you aren't already, please consider subscribing to the channel with post notifications on so that when other tutorials, vlogs, documentary shorts, or whatever the case may be goes live here on the channel, you'll be the first to know. But until next time, peace.